So the first of the 4 rubrics for step 1 is on planning. And the way I've organized this is focusing on level 3. Level 3 is the score you want to get. You want to get 3 points, at least. You want to try to always get at least 3 points on these. You have some latitude for getting scores of 2, but don't even play with that. So the way I've set out these rubrics is I focus on level 3 with specific things that you need to do, and then I give you advice, direction for how you might move to a 4 or a 5. Now, a big important thing, and do hold on to this, if you were to do all the work necessary to get a 3, like there's a lot of things to do, often it's 1 or 2 more things you might do, not that egregious, not that hard to do, that can move you to a 4 or a 5. You just have to be more specific, and you just have to have particular details in your work that will take you to a 4 or 5. My students I try to push to level 4 as a starting place, incorporating 3 and 4. So you think about it how you want to, but here's how I've set this one up. So this first one is essential question for step 1 plan. How does the candidate's proposed learning goals connect with prior knowledge and define specific outcomes for students? How do proposed learning activities, instructional and grouping strategies support, engage, and challenge all students to meet the learning goals? Okay, so it's all about learning goals and how they matter. So if we look at level 3 here, there are 9 things that you have to do. Your lesson plan includes manageable and appropriate goals, builds on students' prior content knowledge. Candidate clearly identifies the kinds of evidence they will look for to determine that student met the learning goal, and the assessment they will use to make this determination. The lesson plan includes learning activities that are appropriately supporting, engaging, or challenging for students, and grouping strategies as appropriate. And then this one goes down a little bit further here. Content-specific instructional strategies include modeling and scaffolding that will assist students to reach expectations embedded in the learning activities, including higher order thinking and academic language development. So there's a lot there. Here's the shortcut list I've given you. And you can see I've bolded all of them, so you can use this as some kind of reference too. Every time there's a different color, it's a different requirement. So some paragraphs have 2 things in them. So clear goals are required to get a level 3. Clear reference to prior knowledge, so you need to be using the word prior knowledge somewhere. Describe what counts for successful learning. I will know students will have successfully learned this when they are able to. Describe the formal and informal checks for understanding, if you have exit tickets or if you're going to have check-ins while the kids are working in groups. Activities that make learning happen and grouping if appropriate, so you have to describe what kids are doing, not just yourself. Describe the models you will use. Okay, if you're doing math, what tools might you be using? If you're doing writing, are you doing some kind of co-writing? Describe scaffolds to support learning. Describe moves to make higher order thinking happen, and do use that term. Describe moves to encourage academic language development. Do use that term. Now here's the important thing. You want to make sure you have every one of these. And there's not much latitude. The way I understand CalTPA scoring is if any of these is significantly absent, like if it's very plain that you did not say anything about scaffolds, you can't get a 3. If you don't say anything about the models you're using to teach, then it's going to be a 3. It's going to be a 2, which I don't even have showing here. So any one of these, every one of these has to show up. So you might think about framing your work so that you say, I'm going to hit all 9 of these, using the terms that are there so it's plainly evident that I'm addressing the things that count for Rubric 1. You may have the best lesson plan ever, and everything shows really great, but if you did not write about one of these blocks, you cannot get a 3, which is the score that you should be shooting for. So everyone has to show up. Now, what I've offered you also is do all of these 9 things, and then come over here and look at this. Candidate's lesson plan provides a detailed explanation of proposed instructional adaptations and accommodations to support focus students. So To move up to a 4, make sure your plans clearly describe how you will make your lesson work for your 3 focus students. And as I've said before in other videos, a short paragraph for each with specific accommodation. Okay? For my English learner, I will be doing this as an accommodation support. Every one of those 3 focus students. That's how you move from a 3 to a 4. Now, sometimes they're harder to do, okay? To get a level 5 on this first rubric, you need to be talking about UDL. So you'd have to investigate that, and you'd have to write about UDL in your plans and describe how it shows up in your plans and why it matters. It's going to be clearly reflective of students' assets and learning needs. And you can see how much is being asked for here. So you've got to talk about UDL, you've got to talk about assets and learning needs, you have to talk about challenging learning activities, you have to talk about developing academic language, and you have to talk about higher order thinking. You can do all those things. Make yourself a little list, and if you can do these 9, and you can make sure all of those are addressed in your plan too, then a 5 is possible. And I've had students with 5s on this one. So that's rubric 1. And here's evidence where they will find those things. So that means that your written narrative, your lesson plan, all the templates have to be put in good order. You might go back to your templates and use those and use this kind of checklist to see that those things are in your pieces of evidence, your narratives, your templates, your lesson plan.